So Tyson Fury sat down with Hey Fight fans, Michelle Joy Phelps, and he discussed this whole predicament that the WBC have got themselves in with calling the final eliminator between Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte. Now, I made a video about this a couple of days ago, before anyone had spoken publicly about it. And when I say anyone, I mean Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury. And I said during that video, like, Tyson Fury, literally a couple of months ago, was already in the mandatory challenger position. Not only was he a mandatory challenger, the WBC had done something that was unprecedented by saying the purse split should be 60-40 rather than the 75-25 that we used to for a champion and challenger. They mandated a higher percentage of the purse to Tyson Fury. Now, if you even add to that the fact that Deontay Wilder's team didn't want this fight to go to purse splits, so they offered Tyson Fury 50-50, right? So he had all these chips in his favour, and he turned down that opportunity to sign with ESPN and get this bumper pay package. Like, in what world would he then take part in a final eliminator to be in a position that he was already in? Right, that the prize of winning the final eliminator would be, right, you become the mandatory challenger. Tyson Fury was already the mandatory challenger, and he walked away from that opportunity. So why would he fight a tough fight to have the same opportunity that he already had and walked away from? It makes no sense. So we know Dillian Whyte basically spoke recently, and he said that he'd be willing to fight Tyson Fury, which is no surprise because he'll fight anyone. And I believe the same thing of Tyson Fury. I believe Tyson Fury would fight anyone. But this whole situation makes no sense for him financially and from a sporting perspective. So he said just that in his interview with Michelle Joy Phelps. Hey Fight fans. He literally said that he's not going to be fighting in a final eliminator. He even went on to say that he's beginning to believe Dillian Whyte when Dillian Whyte says the WBC don't want him to have a title shot. He even said he's beaten a lot of good men, and when I say he's beaten, I mean he's Tyson Fury referring to Dillian Whyte. He said that Dillian Whyte's beaten a lot of good men, and Dillian Whyte should be the mandatory challenger. He shouldn't have to have a final eliminator. Like, I understand why the WBC did what they did. Because Tyson Fury's commercial value has risen. He's commercially one of the top heavyweights in that division. And obviously the WBC want the best fighters and the most recognized fighters fighting for their belt. It makes sense from a commercial standpoint. But if you bring into the whole context of the fact that Tyson Fury was already the mandatory challenger and he turned it down, it makes zero sense. It's illogical. They're forcing it on him and he don't want it. Like, to me, right, the governing bodies should be trying to cut through all the bullshit that ruins boxing. And when I say bullshit, I mean, broadcasters, promoters, managers, negotiations for purse splits, etc., etc. They should be trying to cut through all of that and bring the sporting aspect back to boxing. They shouldn't be trying to add to it by making the most money they can for fights. Like, the guy that you're putting in a position was in a better position within your own organization and he turned it down. Like, it made no sense from a sporting aspect to put him back in a final eliminator. But they're trying to look after their pockets more than actually look after the integrity of the sport. This is why boxing's such a mess, man. Decisions like this. Now, I was looking at the top 10 rankings of the WBC earlier on. Now, you got Dillian Whyte in the number 1 position, Fury in number 2. But we know now Fury's not going to take that final eliminator position. Now 3, 4, and 5 I'll discuss together. Ortiz, Brazil, Kalnaki. Brazil obviously is already the mandatory challenger. He's having that fight next week or 2 weeks' time, or whenever it is. Ortiz and Kalnaki, if rumours are to be believed, and what Deontay Wilder said in interviews recently, it looks like these two guys have been offered voluntary defences by Deontay Wilder and his team, so it's likely that they would turn down the opportunity to fight in a final eliminator, because if they lose that fight, then it makes those voluntary defences less viable. Number 6 is Joseph Parker, who Dillian Whyte's already beaten. And then that leaves us with Povetkin, number 7, a fight that Dillian Whyte's been chasing. Pulev, number 8, who there hasn't really been any talk of a fight between Dillian Whyte and Pulev, but Pulev's in a bit of hot water at the moment because of the kissing scenario. Number 9 is Ajit Kabayel, who's the European champion. Now, I'd assume he'd be up for that fight with Dillian Whyte. It'd be a good payday for him. And number 10 is Oscar Rivas, the guy that Dillian Whyte is fighting already. A guy that they Eddie Hearn and Dillian Whyte have petitioned to say this fight should be the final eliminator. And if you go down the list, it kind of makes sense. Like, he's got a what's the right word? Dillian Whyte he's well within his rights to be asking for Rivas to be in a final eliminator. But to be fair, there are a number of fighters in that list that the WBC could have gone with, but they delayed this decision-making process for so long and then called Fury, which was illogical. It doesn't make any it didn't make any sense, that decision. And now they've got themselves in more of a pickle. Like, from what I understand, Dillian Whyte and Eddie Hearn have requested that the winner of the Oscar Rivas Dillian Whyte fight get an immediate mandatory shot at Deontay Wilder. I don't agree with that, because Deontay Wilder is doing a mandatory defense with Dominic Brazil. Why should he have to do 2 mandatory defenses in a row just because the WBC have made a pig zero? It's not Deontay Wilder's fault. In all of this, Deontay Wilder hasn't really done anything wrong. He's just fighting who he's been asked to fight. They asked him to fight Tyson Fury. He started trying to negotiate with Tyson Fury. It's not his fault Tyson Fury walked away, delaying the situation a couple of months. They've asked him to fight Dominic Brazil. He's fighting Dominic Brazil. Why should he have to then fight Dillian Whyte straight after in a mandatory defense? Don't get me wrong. I want to see the fight. I'd love to see the fight. But you can't force your champion to have 2 mandatory defenses. So I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think it should happen. But it's not Dillian Whyte's fault. It's not Deontay Wilder's fault. It's the WBC making a pig zero of this. It's the WBC looking after their own pockets rather than the integrity of the sport, like I said earlier. It's a complete mess, man. Like, it's all well and good, people like Mauricio Sulaiman coming out in the press and talking and giving their side of the story, but then you have to be open to criticism as well. You have to. If you want all the glory by unveiling these fancy belts that you make for these big fights, and you want to be in the press saying, "Oh, we're the WBC, we're the most important governing body in boxing, etc., etc." You have to accept the criticism when it comes your way, when you make illogical decisions like you have. Anyway, that's my rant over. Hopefully they move quickly now. Hopefully they quickly make a decision. Hopefully, I think they should just say, right, okay, Oscar Rivas and Dillian Whyte, that's the final eliminator. They should make the winner the interim champion, and then they should try and make the mandatory defense from Wilder, I'd say, kind of by at the end of the year or early next year. Give him a chance to have a couple of voluntary defenses. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Put your comments below. Don't be scared to share this. Don't be scared to like this. And please, please, please subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.